Hi everybody, UK 911 Media Productions here, and something a bit different today. We've got the Meet the Owners section, as some of you have seen already. We're going to continue that line today, but something a little bit different. Just thought something of interest to some of you might be what happens with these American cop cars when they arrive in other countries. So today we are going to talk about one that's arrived in Germany, and you'll have to excuse me because I am reading from a script which I've had to play around with the wording a bit, so I'm not word perfect, so if you don't mind I will be looking at the script. So here we go. Those of you will know already, those of you don't, Odin is our person of the day today, and Odin is a very, very dear friend of us, part of the family, and Odin and his dear wife Melanie live in Germany. So Odin himself is part of a group in Germany, of which their details are always on the end of our videos. It's a group that I do support myself, and some of you remember Odin and Melanie when they've been in the UK before, and at the time Odin had a Dodge Charger. Well, things have progressed, and I'm glad to say that Melanie and Odin finally have got a dream car of theirs, and I must say I know the car. And some of you would have known the car because the person responsible for importing that car originally into the UK was our good friend Sean Griffin. Sean decided that this example of Ford Explorer he was going to offer up for sale, which he did, and you can see where the story is leading to. Melanie and Odin approached Sean some time ago and said to Sean, whenever you're ready to sell the car, please give us first refusal. That opportunity arose, and Melanie and Odin began the process of purchasing the car from Sean. So I'm going to read now from some scripts which Odin sent me over, so I've sort of tried the best I can to translate into English that hopefully most of you will understand. So the step one Odin and Melanie had to do before they could even consider buying the car was they needed clarification from the German authorities to confirm the police package engine fitted in the car could be registered in Germany. I know that does sound a bit strange maybe to some of you, but I'm led to believe that is the process. I don't really have any knowledge at all about German regulations, etc. To be honest, I'm very much being guided by good old Odin. And then step two, they had to contact the TUV in Nord, which firstly that's the institution in Germany that holds paperwork, etc. for all foreign cars, so i.e. the regulations involved and all the information about the cars. So once they received the clarification for that, they then had to have clarified the certification of exhaust emissions which were acceptable in Germany, and also the headlights, and they were made available, but those certificates had to be purchased at a grand total of £400. So that was the point where Odin and Melanie could approach Sean and say, yes, we will buy the car. So step three, this I find really quite bizarre. Perhaps this is one of the negatives of us coming out of the EU. I'll let you decide on that. I'm not a political person. So step 3, because in Germany citizens are not allowed to drive vehicles which are registered outside of the EU, that caused a bit of an issue in itself. However, in other EU countries are fine with driving a UK registered car as a full EU citizen. So, to get the car to Germany, some processes had to be thought about, and then Odin basically came up with 2 choices that they had. The car would need to be trailered from the UK to Germany, which Odin could do himself if he was to rent a trailer, etc., etc., or a company to do it for them on their behalf. However, then import documents would be required, and all sorts of other expenses would also be incurred, of course, and that would prove to be very tricky and very expensive. So the second option, the owner of the car, i.e. Sean, if he was sitting in the car with Odin and gave Odin permission to drive the car, as long as it's insured, etc., then he could do so. So of course, between Odin and Sean, they were happy to do it that route, and that's the route the car ended up travelling to Germany, which also gave Sean a bit of a holiday in Germany, which I've heard about, and I think they had a fantastic time, and that's brilliant. So step 4, once the Explorer arrived in Germany, a sale contract had to be written, but it could only be done then, because obviously in the eyes of the German laws, the car wasn't being sold whilst it was being taken to Germany. It was only the fact once it arrived in Germany that Sean said, "Oh, would you like to buy my Explorer?" Odin and Melody, of course, jumped at the opportunity. So the contract of sale was written up, and I think, shall we say, I think for Melanie and Odin, that was the time they knew that things were definitely progressing as regards to the purchase of the Explorer. So then all the relevant papers in the car had to be presented to customs, of which a 10% duty had to be paid from the selling price of the vehicle, and that wasn't all. Then a further 19% import sales tax had to be paid on top. As you can see, the sums do add up. So step 5, and probably the most important one as regards having the car legal in Germany, was the mechanical changes that had to be made to the vehicle in preparation for the German, equivalent to IVA. So first and foremost, and I think it's probably the most gut-wrenching thing to have to do for anybody that's in love with these retired American cop cars, was the fact every single piece of equipment had to be removed from the vehicle, which I can imagine some of you are already saying, "Oh my god, yes, every single item." So for the car to be registered as a 5-seater, which technically that's exactly what it is, civilian ones are 5-seater registered for insurance purposes. The other part of the police equipment that had to be removed was the divider between the front and the back seats, which obviously forms part of the prison cage as we know it. So that had to be removed, and if it hadn't been removed, the IVA people would only have registered it as a 2-seater car, which, to be fair, that's no good to man or beast. So it was removed, and the parking light colour had to be changed from a yellow to white, with the original bulb being a 2-wired bulb. So as you can imagine, this included the yellow parking light and turn signal. So Odin had to drill a hole in each headlight to put a white 5-watt parking bulb into it, and therefore all the wiring had to be changed. And those of you who've seen previous videos regarding Odin and wiring, a year to find a wiring problem on the charger, less than 5 minutes to find a wiring problem on my Crown Vic. You can imagine where that story could go to. So anyhow, he done that. And the German law also states that the VIN number has to be shown on the frame, which of course on the Ford Explorer it wasn't. So Odin hammered in a plate. He made a plate with the VIN number on it, and he then had to weld that to the frame. There was a slight parking brake issue as far as the IVA people will be concerned, and that needed attention as well. So Odin sorted that out. Nothing serious, but he knew the IVA would fail it with the way it was, so he sorted it. So Odin then went on to purchase from the States a cover for the light bar. For those that you don't know, in Germany the light bars have to be covered up. So he bought that. But a new law was introduced in Germany in 2025, and that says if the vehicle papers confirm that that light bar was the part of the original build of the car, it could stay on the vehicle. But from my understanding, it still has to be covered. Which again, a lot of these cars, when they come from forwards, they don't have that equipment on. The equipment is put on by the various agencies that purchase the cars, but I guess the fact that it's still part of the production of the car, as the car retired, as far as all the documentation was concerned, if it had it all on, then that's part of the build. So Odin left it as that, but obviously got the cover as well. So the other thing, the law states that you have to have a kill switch for all the emergency equipment in the vehicle, which we pretty much in the UK, most of us have that anyhow. It's either under the bonnet or in the boot, or in Odin's case, what he did, he fitted one into the boot of his, and that switch is to kill all the emergency equipment, so your lights, your sirens, they can't be switched on technically whilst you're driving on public roads or public accessible roads. So all the wiring had to be done for that. That was all done. So then the next step on from that, you just excuse me, the headlights had to be polished out because there were scratches on them. The IVA test in Germany is very, very particular apparently regarding that sort of thing. So Odin had to remove all the scratches from the headlights, which I can imagine, having tried that myself, that's quite a time consuming thing. But it had to be done, so Odin's done that. And the other thing is, which I find a little bit bizarre, but nevertheless, in Germany the push bar had to be removed. Apparently German authorities not keen on you having it on the car, so Odin removed that, and I believe Sean has kept that as a souvenir. And also the window bars in the back, again part of the, as we call the prison partition, they also had to be removed as well. And also something I find really quite strange, but knowing the setup of the car can perhaps understand from a safety point of view, the computer mount had to be removed as well. So that all sounds fairly straightforward, but I've seen the pictures, which I'll add to this, and I've obviously spoke to Odin, and I can tell you it was a very long process and very time consuming. However, he got the car to the stage where it was ready to be presented to the IVA test centre. So the vehicle was taken there with all the documentation relevant to the car, and it went for its test. Happily, it passed, which was great. Fantastic. We are closer to then having the car back on the road and something that can be used. However, more costs. So the test itself was £850, and then a further £250 for the registration of the vehicle in Germany. So you've got the initial cost of the car, and I'm not going to tell you what that was. That's a private matter between Sean and Odin. I am aware because Odin's told me the complete package cost. But shall we just say the monies that Odin had to pay out on top has made that probably one of the most expensive Explorers in the EU, and that's not the purchase of the car, that's everything on top that's had to be done just so Odin and Melanie could have their dream car in Germany. So you think, well, what are they going to do with all that police equipment? Once it's been through its IVA, it is what it is. So Odin took the car back home. And then he had all the fun and joy of putting all that police equipment back into the car, which he's done, minus the push bar. And I know since Odin and Melanie have had the car in their ownership and they've been able to use the car, it's brought them a lot of joy, a lot of pleasure, and a lot of fun. And on top of that, Odin managed to sell his Dodge Charger fairly quickly, actually, which was great, because obviously that was to help finance the purchase and all the bits and pieces they've had to do to get the car registered and legally on the road in Germany. And I must say, the car is a superb car. I did look at it when Sean had it, and I'm sure the car will bring Odin and Melanie many, many, many years of pleasure. And it's a superb example of a Ford Explorer, and I think a lot of that credit has to go to Sean, who originally imported the car to the UK. So that's pretty much a little bit about Meet the Owner, with a slight twist. That being, of course, as we've just gone through, what you do have to go through if you import cars to other countries, and this example was to Germany. So quite a short little video, but I hope you found it informative and interesting. And if you'd like me to do more of these sort of content, I'm very happy to do so. And if we've got any car owners out there that would like to be involved in this, we can do some videos, we can do an interview, we can do all that sort of stuff, so we can put something on the channel. But as usual, if you don't approach me or contact me, then how am I to know what you want to do, or if you would like to do it? So just bear that in mind, people. More than happy to get together with people. There's some people on my list of people I'd love to talk to. Love to have an interview with people that have been involved in bringing cars into the UK for a long time. Mark and Chris Lumpton, that's aimed at you two guys. Hopefully at Rock and Ribs this year we can spend a little bit of time together and perhaps do an interview, and you can tell us the history of your involvement. And I mean, I know Gordon County, who's the department I like to represent here in the UK and hold very dearly. Mark and Chris are responsible for bringing all of the Gordon County cars here to the UK, so I'm grateful for that, because it's a department I've got to know, and yeah, I've got a lot of respect and time for the sheriff and his team there, and I do support them wherever I can. So that being said, hopefully our next interview with Meet the Owner, we've done a little bit before with Nick Davis. What we're going to ask Nick to do is actually just sit down and talk to us about his whole career regarding American cars, because Nick's been involved in the American car hobby for many years, not just American police cars. He's had other bits and pieces, and Nick is very knowledgeable with his business, which is a mobile mechanic on American cars, and quite happy to turn his hands at most things to put things right if they go wrong. So next video will be our next event out, which I shall bring to you. But in the meantime, from me, take it easy, be safe out there. Please abide the law. It's there for a reason. It's not just there because someone felt like writing it. We've had a few issues recent times, which all of you are aware, and you're all aware that that's been tackled. And I'm pleased that was tackled, because personally it was causing me a bit of an issue. So for now, as I say, take care, be good to one another, abide the law, keep healthy, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as we can at Rockin' Ribs, which is a bit later in the year.
Sunrise paints the eastern sky, a new day's dawning bright. Old Ford truck on dusty roads, bathed in morning light. Gordon County on my mind, every field and stream. Just a simple country chef living out a dream. Got my badge and my trusty hat, and a smile for every face. Keeping peace in this quiet town, finding my own place. Oh, the sheriff of Gordon County, with a sausage roll in hand, sipping on a Dr. Pepper, patrolling this green land. From the pine trees to the pastures where the wildflowers grow, watching over good folk, putting on a show. Radio crackles low and soft, a gentle country tune. The windows down, the wind blows free beneath the midday moon. I see old Mrs. Gable away from her porch swing, slow and wide. She knows I'm always watching out, with nowhere left to hide. Checking fences, checking barns, just making sure it's right. Keeping everything in order from morning till the night. Oh, the sheriff of Gordon County, with his sausage roll in hand, sipping on a Dr. Pepper, patrolling this green land. From the pine trees to the pastures where the wildflowers grow, watching over good folk, putting on a show. Some folks chase the city lights, the hustle and the speed, but give me open roads and fields, that's all I'll ever need. Simple pleasures, honest work, a life that feels so true. Underneath the Georgia sun, I'll always see it through. Oh, the sheriff of Gordon County, with a sausage roll in hand, sipping on a Dr. Pepper, patrolling this green land. From the pine trees to the pastures where the wildflowers grow, watching over good folk, putting on a show. Yeah, sausage roll and Dr. Pepper as the sun begins to fade. The sheriff of Gordon County, a promise I have made.